Hello and welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. Except this week it's a little bit different. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you will see that I'm not sat in Peggy this week, I am sat at the boot of Peggy. A few weeks ago when we were at an event, somebody asked if we had a torque wrench, because I usually carry quite a lot of tools in the back here. And Jamie, bless him, came out to the car, searched all through the boot of my car because we were pretty sure it was in there, and couldn't find it. But it did result in us having a pretty messy boot, and it made me think that I'm not entirely sure everything in the boot of my car is necessary at the moment. A lot of it went in for our Northern Ireland trip and hasn't necessarily been used or reached for since. And I've got a couple of trips coming up where having a little bit of extra space in the boot of my car is going to make quite a bit of difference to the packing. It's going to make it a whole lot easier to get everything that we need in. But I thought, what better way than to spend my long summer evenings than sorting out my boot with you guys here on the podcast. So I'm going to get everything out of the boot and then go through what was in there and make a decision as to whether it's actually something that I think is going to be useful to me. Undoubtedly I'll take something out of this car and I will need it, but clearly I was taking stuff out of this car like a torque wrench that might well have been needed, and I had no idea that it wasn't in here anymore and that it was somewhere else. So getting a better idea of what's actually in here, what I might actually need for my upcoming trips, and making a bit better organised situation after everything was kind of ransacked seems like a pretty good idea to me, and hopefully it's of interest to you guys as well. So without further ado, let's get everything out and see where we're at. Okay, so I've got this handy bit of tarpaulin out to go through everything on, but it's quite a bit of stuff, and some of it I think is just suffering from being poorly packaged in there, and I have got some things that might help with that, and also me making a sharpest decision about whether some of this stuff is actually things that I'm going to bother to do at roadside, or whether in most cases it is just for those really long trips where I want that stuff put in there, and making, again, smart decisions about what that actually looks like for me. So going through some of what we've got, right over here we've got oil, we've got some high-vis jackets, we've got some cleaning cloths, we've got a bit of cleaning material there, we've got a really useful actually rechargeable tyre pump, and that is something that I got not that long ago, but has been really invaluable as I've got a bit of a slow puncture on one of my tyres, and so I can just pump that up every so often. And it's also a torch and a phone charger, so really useful. I've still got my Drive It Day plaque, and also with the weather that's going to be happening this week, I've realised that I should probably take off my Singer Owners Club plaque from the front of the car to give that little bit extra airflow to the engine. I'm sure it'll appreciate that. I've got a compression tester, a bag full of spares that I'll go through in a bit more detail as I put it all back in and decide what's actually going in, some stuff to do with doing a tyre change, a currently empty spare fuel can, and also the lid for that. Some of my toolboxes that actually live inside my main toolbox, that I think got turfed out when we were searching for the torque wrench. We've got underneath the number plates there, we've got a set of gaskets, my warning triangle for breakdowns, a whole box of things that I need to go through and decide what's actually useful to me. And I think I'm also going to change it from being a box. I think a box is a pretty set shape, and I've got a lot of things in there that aren't very squishable and movable in my boot already, and so having a bit more of a squishy shaped thing might be more useful when it comes to packing over the coming weeks. I've got my rag for wiping off hands and things like that, my kneeler, and also randomly some kitchen trivets that me and Jamie bought the other week that probably need to make it to our kitchen. So that's an overview, but I'm going to go into a bit more detail about what's in some of these things and whether I actually think I'm going to use them. But one of the easiest tidy ups for in the back of there is going to be this box and putting the things back in it that got turfed out of it whilst we were hunting for the elusive torque wrench. And I'm pretty happy with everything that's in here. I'm pretty familiar with everything that's in here because I've been doing quite a lot of talks with brownies and beavers and guides about what's in my toolbox, what they all do. So I know what's in here. It's something that's been built up over the years of owning the Morris, of things that people have said that it's quite useful to have at the roadside to do most of the jobs that you'd want to do roadside, but also it's a good collection of bits and pieces if I need to help anybody else out. And yeah, most of the things I want in here: mix of spanners, AF, metric and Whitworth, mix of sockets. All of my spanners are labelled up with nail polish because, again, if you're watching on the podcast, you can see that I'm a pretty big nail polish fan, and so making sure that I can quickly work out which is which for my spanners is a good idea. And then my Imperial spanners are in a big roll together because that's going to be mostly what you're reaching for. Spark plug remover, wheel remover, all of those sorts of things, spare spark plugs, things that I don't see myself not wanting in here. I have spotted that there is a bag of gloves that is usually tucked away in here that can go back in, and then obviously my 2 lots of tools can go back in here, and that will then tidy up the back a little bit and mean that the things that I'm looking for are going to be in the places that I'm expecting them. But yeah, I love this toolbox. I got it from a little antiques place, and it already had a lot of wear and some stickers on it, and then it's meant that I've been able to add a bit more of my personality and things that I would like on there in there, so that can stay as is now. And the rag towel will be invaluable as well, so that'll be good. The number plates, they'll be going back in as well. Might clean them up a little bit before they go back in. The gasket set doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's good to have, even if I don't think I'll be attacking something at the side of the road. It's good to have, and I've got a way of keeping them flat and safe, so that will be going back in for sure. This box I think will be my next task. So, like I said, this box has been kind of as it is since we went to Northern Ireland. I haven't really a clue what's in it, and I think that there's some stuff in there that I was perhaps being overcautious about needing at the side of the road. So we'll go through that. Now, my cleaning stuff, I do like keeping hold of. I do like to be able to tidy Peggy up a little bit at the side of the road. So this does need replacing because that's actually empty. But let me see everything that I've got and decide what I actually want in there. So I probably only need one of these two waterless washes. This one is much more full, so I'll pop that in, and this one can stay at home for bits and pieces. Wool cleaner, again, it's probably more something that I do when I'm at home doing a big wash rather than at the side of the road or at a show. This isn't the Nano Shield that's in here, but it is the Mint Classic Detailer. That's really good, and I've just been topping this bottle up, so again, a really useful thing to keep on board. And definitely some glass cleaner, because if you own a Classic and you use it regularly during summer, you know that your windscreen is going to be an absolute magnet for flies, and so a good glass cloth as well is going to be pretty important, so that can go in there for sure. Right, what else have we got? Various different cloths. I think I need to clean all of my cloths, put some clean ones in here, and then just have those. A timing gun. Probably not going to be doing too much timing at the side of the road, especially as I have electronic ignition. That can probably be staying in the garage. Again, some of this stuff might have actually come from when we moved house and we dumped a lot of stuff in the cars for part of the moving, but now that we have our workshops and stuff that we've been busy setting up, this will all have nice homes here, so that can stay there. Really useful option for replacing a tyre if it's not safe to do so at the side of the road. Bin bags. I probably don't need 50 bin bags in the back of my car either, so that can probably go. Bit of kitchen towel, always handy to have. A bit of grease, I think that's not too much of a problem. Sellotape, not sure why that's there. A little bottle of water for topping it up if needed. Some wet wipes, so goodness knows if these are actually, yeah, they're not wet anymore, so they can get replaced. A head torch. What I'm actually going to do is see if I can fit that into my toolbox somewhere, because I'm far more likely to look for it in there in a roadside situation, although I do have a really useful torch that I got from Lidl that I keep in my glove box, so again, if I'm in a situation at the side of the road where I need it, that can come with me to the back of the car and help me find things. A bit of BDX Bulldog, really useful, really amazing stuff. Get yourself some of this. They're always at the Resto show in March, and we've got loads of cans of this in all of our cars and in the workshop as well, so I will keep hold of that in there. Now this is something that I was kind of thinking would be a situation. I've got two workshop manuals of different styles and a parts manual in the back of my car, neither of which I have had to use, so I think what I will do is I will keep the one main workshop manual in the bag and the rest can go in the workshop for safekeeping. I've also got a tow rope. That's something that I will keep hold of in the back of the car. Again, I've used that more than a lot of things in the back of here, not just for myself but for other things, other people, so that will be really handy to use. And I've got rid of that box that I was a bit worried about not being as kind of compressible, and also the lovely sunflower bag that I've got is much prettier. I can get my warning triangle in there now as well. And I can probably find a way to store these under the back on top of the fuel tank, because if I'm using these I am probably having to get the spare tyre out anyway, so that will stop them being in the boot of the car in a way that is getting in my way when I'm wanting to pack it up for exciting events. So what else have we got? Up this end of the thing, we have got more of my cloths. This is one of those towels that dries things really quickly, and I'm going to pop that back in, but I'm going to put that inside the sunflower bag, so that I've got that for if the rain comes back. And like I said, I'm going to wash all of the cloths and put some clean ones in the car ready for the upcoming shows. I'm going to take the Drive It Day banner out and put that on my wall in the garage, and gather up some of these receipts and put those in the bin. My compression tester will go back in, and if you saw me taking this out, it was stored again on that bit on top of the fuel tank. It's a really useful place to put a few bits and bobs, and it's a useful thing to have, because the one time that Peggy kind of catastrophically broke down, it was the one thing that we didn't have to kind of eliminate, whether it was head gasket, etc. failure. So I do like to carry one of those about. So again, I will put that on the top of the fuel tank. I've got my spare fuel can. It's empty at the moment because my dad used it in his 1931 Junior when we were on our way home from Singer Owners Club weekend, but I will probably be filling it up and popping it back in. It's just handy to have. I do trust my fuel gauge, having done 45,000 miles and it never read wrong in that time, but it fits in again in that bit under the main parcel shelf and doesn't take up that much more room, and is handy to have in case you or anyone that you're at a show with does need it. And like I said, it's not in my way for where I intend to pack. Right, all of this stuff is real signs of where I've had issues before. Now this spin-on oil filter, thermostat, packet of tissues, for everything has just gone so horribly wrong at the side of the road that you are just in tears. A packet of tissues, some spare headlight bulbs because I don't have sealed beams on Peggy anymore, a spare coil, although I do have to say these solid state coils from Viper are amazing. Peggy's fell off of its holder due to vibrations snapping, I think, the bracket or the nuts and bolts that hold it on, and it was just kind of dangling for at least my trip to the MOT station, if not before, because I was using it for the weekend before, and the last time I'd properly checked was maybe the Thursday, and it just kept going. So no complaints there at all on these. They're amazing. They don't often go, but having a spare coil is a recommended thing to have. Another packet of tissues in case things go horribly wrong, a spare distributor. I am on electronic ignition, but they do sometimes go, not very often, but again, it's in this little bag, it's not taking up a lot of space. I think that was, yeah, that's the distributor arm, an exhaust mount, and some points. I think if I've got the whole distributor in there, carrying the points as small as they are is not necessary, but I will keep the rotor arm in there, and tuck these things back in. Oh, and an accelerator cable. Again, it's something that's gone on mine before, and so I bought a spare to keep hold of and to keep in there. It doesn't take up really any space in my little bag of spare parts, and useful enough to have really. And a fan belt, always carrying a spare one of those, and that bag does zip up and compress down reasonably small, so that will probably sit on top of the, or underneath the sunflower bag, and massively compress what was in there before, so that's a good idea. Pop the tissues back in just in case, and then we've just got some oil, absolutely, and some high-vis jackets for, again, if things go outside the road. But I do have a really cute case that they go in, so I'm going to dig that out and put them back in it, so again it doesn't take up as much space as them just flailing about in the back of the car. My goodness, isn't that so much better? For the longest time, when I have been doing a food shop in Peggy, have come to the conclusion that there is no way I'm getting any of the food shop in the boot, and so it all goes in on the passenger seat or in the back seat, depending on if I've got a passenger with me, because it's just been, even when it was tidy and everything was in its place, it was too full of things. And so now I reckon I could easily get 3 shopping bags in the boot here, and then plenty of space obviously in the main body of the car. But that means that, again, with these trips that I've got coming up, I can fit a decent amount in the boot here, which I can't usually, which will be good news for me actually being able to get everything to these places that I want to get to them. Because for a really long time, me and Jamie now have been taking 2 cars to some of these events, like the Morris Minor National that's coming up, but we want to go back to actually being able to travel together in the car and just take what we actually need. So a roof rack and a tidy boot, I think, are going to be really key to us actually being able to fit the things that we want to take to National into the cars and have a nice time along the way. But yes, loads better, and I don't feel like anything that I took out was going to be missed, and everything has its place, and I just need to remember now when I take stuff out to put it back in its place. So a really successful use of my evening, and a beautiful boot to show for it. I think I might treat myself to a new clear cover for my carpet in the back here, just to keep that protected, because it's got a bit mucky and a bit rough over the last year and a half that's been in there. But overall, really pleased with the outcome, and hope that you found this at least somewhat interesting and intriguing. I did realise that one thing I didn't speak about that usually lives in the boot here is my very big stick, which extends out like a tripod, but it's a monopod, and I use this for getting kind of like aerial shots of shows and group photos and things like that. If you've been to a Women Driver Social Club event or lots of other events like that, you will often see me getting the big stick out to take a group photo, because you can get a really nice angle of a larger group and a group of cars kind of behind it, in places that you can't always use a drone. So that's been really useful. And also the tripod that I am filming this on also usually lives in the back of the car, again for photos and things like that. It doesn't take up a huge amount of space, but when it's not in there I do miss it. And this tripod has been broken for so long, but I keep reaching for it because it is such a good tripod, and I do need to probably give it some TLC to see if I can make it last that little bit longer. But that is everything that is now in Peggy's boot. Plenty of space for upcoming events, and I'd love to hear if there's anything that you think I'm desperately missing, bearing in mind that I need to try and keep as much of this space as possible. What am I desperately missing from this car? Things like fire extinguishers and stuff like that are in the main car, because getting to them from the boot would just take too long. So it might be that something you suggest I already have, but be interested to hear. And in the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.